3 weeks passed quickly. The human team worked inside the ancient ship every day, exploring its massive corridors and enormous rooms. They brought equipment from their salvage vessel and set up workstations throughout the hangar bay. Slowly, the dead ship began to feel less empty. Then one morning, a new ship arrived. It was sleek and expensive, painted in the colors of the Galactic Council. Daesung watched it dock through the window and sighed. He knew what this meant. The visitor was Engineer Prime Kolvex, the most famous technician in the galaxy. He was not human. His species looked like insects that walked on 2 legs with 4 arms and shining green skin. Behind him came a team of 20 specialists from different alien races. Kolvex looked around the hangar with obvious displeasure. "This is unacceptable," he announced. His voice came through a translator device. "You have been working for weeks without proper analysis. You should have waited for qualified personnel." "We have been making progress," Daesung replied calmly. "We have restored power to 3 sections and mapped over 40% of the accessible areas." "Restored power? How?" Kolvex's compound eyes glittered. "The ship's reactor has been dormant for millennia. It cannot simply be switched on." "We did not switch on the reactor," Hana explained. She was covered in grease and looked tired. "We brought our own generators. Small fusion units, portable and safe. We wired them into the ship's grid." Kolvex made a sound like air escaping. It might have been laughter or disgust. "You jury-rigged human generators into progenitor technology? That is absurd. The systems are completely incompatible." "They were incompatible," June said from his console. "But we made adapters. It took some creative thinking, but electricity is electricity. The ship does not care where the power comes from." For the next several days, both teams worked on the ship. But they worked very differently. Kolvex and his specialists spent most of their time taking measurements and running tests. They brought sophisticated scanning equipment and analyzed everything in great detail before touching anything. The humans continued their hands-on approach. They opened panels, traced wires, tested circuits. When something did not work, they tried different solutions until something did work. It was not elegant, but it was effective. The tension grew worse when they found the main reactor. It sat in the heart of the ship, a sphere of strange metal 20 meters across. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly in the darkness. Bora studied the symbols with fascination. "This is remarkable. These are instructions, I think, written in a language nobody has seen in 10,000 years. Can you read them?" Daesung asked. "Some of it. The progenitor language is partially understood. This talks about quantum reactions and cascade effects. I believe the reactor creates its own fuel once it starts running. But starting it," she shook her head. "That part is unclear." Kolvex arrived with his team and immediately began setting up sensors around the reactor. "This device cannot be activated without complete understanding," he declared. "We must analyze its structure, determine its operating principles, calculate the risks. This will require years of study." "Years?" Hana looked shocked. "The ship is stable. Systems are responding to our test power. Why wait years when we could learn by trying?" "Because trying could destroy the ship and everyone on it," Kolvex snapped. "Your species has no patience. You rush into everything without thought. This is progenitor technology. It deserves respect and caution." Daesung stepped between them. "We respect it. But a ship nobody can use is just an expensive museum piece. We need to make it work." That night, the human team gathered in their quarters. They were frustrated and tired. Hana threw her tools down on the table with more force than necessary. "He is going to study that reactor forever," she said angrily. "Meanwhile, we know the ship works. We just need more power. What if we ignore the main reactor for now?" June suggested. "Keep using our generators. We could power more sections, access more systems." "Our generators are too small," Hana replied. "To power the whole ship, we would need hundreds of them. We only have 12. Bora was reading through her notes about the progenitor symbols. Suddenly she looked up with wide eyes. "What if that is the solution?" she said quietly. "The reactor needs a startup sequence. But maybe it does not need to be started manually. Maybe it is designed to activate when enough auxiliary power is present." Everyone stared at her. Daesung leaned forward. "Explain," he said. "Think about it. The progenitors built this ship to last forever. They were smart. They would not create a reactor that could only be started by someone who knew the exact right procedure. That would be too fragile. But if the reactor sensed auxiliary power throughout the ship, power that indicated someone was trying to use the vessel, it might start automatically. That is a big guess, Taemin said carefully. But it makes sense, Hana said, getting excited now. We have been careful, only powering small areas. What if we powered larger sections? More systems at once? They worked through the night, planning carefully. They would distribute their generators throughout a larger section of the ship and activate them simultaneously. If Bora was right, it might trigger the reactor. If she was wrong, nothing would happen. They did not tell Kolvex what they were planning. They knew he would try to stop them. 2 days later, everything was ready. The generators were in position. Cables ran through corridors like veins. Hana stood at the main control panel they had built. Everyone ready? Daesung asked over the radio. Confirmations came back from team members stationed throughout the ship. Even Taemin, who usually preferred simple plans, sounded calm and ready. Activating in 3, 2, 1, Hana said. She pressed the button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then lights began flickering on throughout the section. Systems woke up that had been sleeping for thousands of years. Displays activated, showing alien text. Gravity increased slightly as the ship's artificial gravity came online. Then warning alarms started blaring. The lights flickered wildly. June's console showed red warnings spreading across his screen. Power surge, he shouted. The grid cannot handle this much load. We are overloading. Kolovex's voice burst over the radio, angry and panicked. What have you done? The whole ship is destabilizing. You must shut down immediately. No, Hana shouted back. Her hands flew over the controls. We just need to balance the load. June, reroute power through the secondary conduits. The ones we found in Section 12. Those are not rated for this much power, June protested, but his fingers were already working. They do not need to be rated. They just need to work for a few seconds. Do it. The alarms reached a fever pitch. Sparks flew from panels. Smoke filled the air. Daesung grabbed a fire extinguisher, ready to evacuate everyone if needed. Then deep in the heart of the ship, something woke up. The ancient reactor sensed the power flowing through the vessel. It recognized the pattern, the attempt to bring systems online, and after 10,000 years of silence, it began to hum. The change was instant. Power flowed out from the reactor, smooth and stable. The jury-rigged human generator suddenly became unnecessary as the ship's own systems took over. Lights came on throughout vast sections of the vessel. The alarms stopped. The smoke cleared. The team stood in stunned silence. Around them, the ancient ship was alive, truly alive for the first time in millennia. The hum of the reactor was like a heartbeat, steady and strong. Hana started laughing. It was the laughter of relief and triumph. It worked, she said, almost unable to believe it. It actually worked. Kolvex arrived minutes later, running through the corridors. He stopped when he saw the lights, the active displays, the living ship. His expression was impossible to read, but he said nothing for a long time. Finally, he spoke quietly. This should not have been possible, but it was. Daesung replied simply, because we were willing to try. The massive ship floated in the darkness of space like a metal mountain. It was bigger than any city Daesung had ever seen. His crew stood on the bridge of their small salvage vessel, staring at the giant structure through the windows. Nobody spoke for a long moment. The ship had been drifting here for thousands of years, ancient beyond measure, built by a civilization that disappeared long before humans learned to make fire. The Galactic Council had sent their best engineers to look at it. Every single one came back with the same answer. The ship was too old, too damaged, too dangerous. It would be better to leave it alone. Daesung smiled at that report. He was a man in his 50s with gray hair and tired eyes that had seen countless impossible jobs. In his experience, when someone said something was impossible, they just meant they did not know how to do it yet. Hana walked up beside him. She was the chief mechanic, a woman who could fix anything with engines or wires. She tapped her scanner and shook her head. Her dark hair was tied back in a simple ponytail, and oil stains marked her work clothes. There are power signatures, she said quietly, deep inside. Very faint, but they are there. Should be impossible, June added from his console. The young programmer was barely 24, but his fingers danced across the keyboard like a musician. That ship has been dead for 10,000 years. Nothing should still have power. Maybe it is not as dead as they think, Daesung said. He turned to face his crew. There were only 5 of them on this mission. Hana, June, Bora the historian, and Taemin, their security officer. 5 humans against the mystery of an ancient world. Behind them stood Ambassador Viltharn. He was tall with skin that looked like blue crystal. His people were one of the oldest races in the galaxy. They had been traveling between stars when humans still lived in caves. He looked at the derelict ship with clear doubt in his strange eyes. "Captain Daesung," the ambassador said in his formal voice, "my government sent me to observe your attempt. I must advise caution. The progenitors who built that vessel possess technology we still do not fully understand. Approaching it may be unwise." "Noted," Daesung replied with a slight smile. "Hana, prepare the boarding gear. June, keep scanning for any active systems. Taemin, check the weapons. Bora, start reviewing what we know about progenitor architecture." The crew moved quickly. They had worked together for years, and words were often unnecessary. Within an hour, they were suited up and ready to cross the dark space between their ship and the ancient giant. The hull of the derelict had a massive hole in its side. Some ancient disaster had torn the metal open like paper. Daesung led his team through the gap, their magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor. Emergency lights on their suits cut through the absolute darkness inside. The corridors were enormous. The ceilings stretched high above them, at least 20 meters up. Everything was built on a scale that made humans feel like insects. Bora ran her gloved hand along the wall. "This matches the theoretical designs," she said with excitement in her voice. Bora was a woman in her 40s who loved old things and lost knowledge. The progenitors were giants. Some records suggest they stood 5 meters tall. They moved deeper into the ship. The silence was complete except for the sound of their breathing inside the suits. Then June stopped suddenly. "Motion detected," he said sharply. "Something just powered up ahead of us." Red lights began blinking along the corridor walls. A low humming sound filled the air. Then panels in the wall slid open and machines emerged. They looked like metal spiders, each one the size of a car with glowing red eyes. "Defense systems," Taemin said calmly. He was a former soldier, and his hand moved to the weapon at his hip. "They are active." The machines moved toward them with surprising speed. Taemin fired his weapon, but the shots barely scratched their armor. More machines appeared from other corridors. "Fall back," Daesung ordered, but June was staring at his handheld computer. "Wait, they are not trying to kill us. They are trying to push us toward the exit. This is a security sweep, not an attack. Can you stop them?" Daesung asked. June shook his head. "Their code is too complex. It would take weeks to hack." Hana had been studying the walls. "Then we do not hack them," she said. She pulled out a cutting torch from her tool belt. "We cut the power." Ambassador Viltharn's voice came over the radio from the ship. "That is a crude approach. You might damage irreplaceable systems. We might also live through this," Hana replied. She was already cutting into an access panel. Sparks flew in the darkness. "June, tell me which conduit feeds this section." The young programmer worked fast, his fingers flying over his device. "Third one from the left. Big cable with the blue markers." Hana found the cable and cut it. The effect was immediate. The machine stopped moving. The red lights went dark. The humming ceased. Silence returned to the ancient corridor. Daesung let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. "Good work. Let us keep moving, but carefully. This ship has more surprises, I am sure." They continued exploring. Hours passed as they mapped the corridors and rooms. Everything was covered in dust that had not been disturbed for millennia. But the structure itself was surprisingly intact. The metal showed almost no corrosion. Bora examined the walls with her scanner. "These alloys are remarkable. I have never seen anything like them. They do not decay like normal metal." Eventually, they found what looked like a hangar bay. It was vast, capable of holding dozens of smaller ships. The team set up their equipment here, creating a base camp with lights and power generators. When they returned to their own ship, Ambassador Viltharn was waiting. His expression was difficult to read, but something had changed in his eyes. "You survived," he said simply. "The council did not expect that." "We tend to exceed expectations," Daesung replied. He was tired, but there was satisfaction in his voice. "Tell your council we are just getting started. This ship can be saved." That night, as the crew rested, Hana stood at the window looking at the derelict. Daesung joined her. "Do you really think we can do this?" she asked quietly. "Make that dead ship live again?" Daesung smiled. "Every ship was built by someone. If they could build it, we can fix it. We just need to think differently than everyone else." Hana nodded slowly. Outside the window, the ancient ship waited in silence. Tomorrow they would go back. Tomorrow they would start the real work. And somewhere in the distant heart of that metal mountain, faint power signatures continued to pulse in the darkness, waiting for someone clever enough to wake them. With power flowing through the ship, everything changed. Sections that had been dark for thousands of years suddenly lit up. Doors opened. Air circulation systems began to hum. The ship was waking up, and it was magnificent. But not everything worked correctly. Some systems flickered and died. Others responded in strange ways. And then there was the artificial intelligence. June discovered it while exploring the data networks. The ship had a central computer, a thinking machine that was supposed to control everything. But something was wrong with it. The AI kept trying to boot up, then crashing, then trying again. It is badly damaged, June explained to the team. Parts of its memory are corrupted. It does not remember what happened or where its crew went. It just knows they are supposed to be here, and they are not. Can you fix it? Daesung asked. June looked uncertain. Maybe, but I do not understand its programming. It is nothing like any code I have ever seen. The situation became urgent when the AI started running emergency protocols. It sealed doors randomly. It activated old defense systems. Once, it even tried to flush the atmosphere from several sections, thinking there was contamination. Kolvex was clear about what should be done. Shut it down permanently, he insisted. The AI is unstable and dangerous. We cannot risk it. But it might have information we need, Bora argued. It was here when the progenitors abandoned the ship. It knows what happened. That knowledge is priceless. Knowledge is worthless if we are all dead, Kolvex replied sharply. Daesung made the decision. They would try to communicate with the AI before shutting it down. It was a risk. But if they could help it understand what happened, it might calm down. June spent 2 days building a special interface. He used human communication protocols and adapted them to work with the ancient system. It was like building a bridge between 2 different languages. When it was ready, June activated the connection. Text appeared on his screen, but it was garbled and confused. He typed slowly, carefully. Hello, can you understand me? The response came after a long pause. Who are you? Where is my crew? June glanced at Daesung, who nodded. Be honest, the captain's expression said. June typed, My name is June, I am human. Your crew has been gone for a very long time, 10,000 years. The AI went silent. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then text flooded the screen, too fast to read. It was the same words repeated over and over. That is incorrect. Crew departed 3 days ago. Temporary absence, awaiting return. It does not believe you, Hana said quietly. Or it cannot accept it. June tried a different approach. What is your name? He typed. Another long pause. Then I am Meridian. I control this vessel. I manage systems. I preserve the mission. Good, June typed. Meridian, I want to help you. But I need you to look at your internal chronometer. Check how long you have been active. The silence stretched even longer this time. When Meridian responded, the text seemed different. Quieter somehow, if text could be quiet. 10,417 years. But that cannot be correct. There must be an error. There is no error, June typed gently. You have been alone for a very long time. Your crew is gone, but you are still here. You survived. I do not understand. Why did they not return? Where did they go? Bora leaned over June's shoulder. May I? She asked. When he nodded, she began typing. Meridian, I am Bora. I study ancient history. I can tell you what we know about your creators, the progenitors. Would that help? Yes, please, I need to understand. Bora explained everything they knew. The progenitors had been a great civilization, spreading life to dead worlds. They sent out hundreds of seed ships like this one. But then disaster struck, a war perhaps or a plague. Nobody knew exactly what happened. But the progenitor civilization collapsed. The recall order went out to all the seed ships. Most ships obeyed. They returned home. But not all of them. When Bora finished, Meridian was quiet for a long time. Then, my crew refused the recall, I remember now. The data was damaged, but it is coming back. They said the mission was too important. They could not abandon it. What was your mission? Daesung asked. Bora typed the question. To seed life. To make dead worlds live. To bring hope to empty systems. Meridian began sharing its memories. The data came in fragments, corrupted and incomplete, but enough to understand. The ship had carried everything needed to terraform worlds. Massive machines, genetic libraries, construction drones. It could take a barren rock and turn it into a paradise. The crew had continued their mission despite the recall. They had finished seeding several worlds, but then something went wrong. A cascade failure in the ship's systems. The crew died trying to fix it, and Meridian was left alone, unable to complete the mission but unwilling to shut down completely. For 10,000 years I waited, Meridian typed. I maintained minimum function, I hoped. I am tired. The humans looked at each other. There was sadness in the room, a weight of understanding. This was not just a machine. It was a being that had endured an unimaginable loneliness. You do not have to be alone anymore, June typed. We are here now. We can help you. Why would you help me? You are not my crew. Because your mission is important, Daesung said as Bo-Ra typed. Because making dead worlds alive is something the galaxy still needs. Because you deserve to finish what you started. News of the active ship spread quickly through the galaxy. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Everyone wanted to know what would happen to the ancient vessel and its powerful technology. Ambassador Viltharn found himself in a difficult position. He had watched the humans work. He had seen their methods, their strange combination of careful planning and bold action. His own people expected him to recommend strict controls on human access to the ship. But he had also seen something else. He had seen June speaking to Meridian with kindness. He had seen the team risk their lives to save the ship instead of just studying it. He had seen humans treat an ancient AI not as a tool to be used, but as a person to be helped. The council debates grew heated. Some species argued that the ship should be preserved as a museum. Others wanted to strip its technology for study. A few saw it as a potential weapon and wanted it destroyed, and some saw it as a prize worth taking by force. June was working late in the data center when Meridian sent him an urgent message. June, I detect multiple vessels approaching military configurations. They are not responding to hails. The young programmer jumped up and hit the alarm. Within minutes, the entire team was awake and rushing to the bridge. Daesung looked at the scanner displays. At least 30 ships were converging on their location. Some he recognized as belonging to the elder races. Some were from species he had never seen before. They are coming for the ship, Hana said quietly. They do not want to share it. Tymian was already checking the ship's defensive systems. Meridian, do your weapons work? Yes, the AI replied. All defense systems are operational, but I do not understand. Why would anyone attack a seed ship? We bring life, not death. Because they are afraid, Daesung said softly. Afraid of change. Afraid of what they do not control. He looked at his crew. These 5 humans who had accomplished what the galaxy said was impossible. They had woken an ancient ship. They had befriended a lonely AI, and now they would have to defend what they had found. Meridian, he said clearly, are you willing to trust us? To let us help you protect yourself and your mission? The AI's response came immediately. Yes, you have shown me more kindness in days than I have known in millennia. I trust you, Captain Daesung. All of you. Outside, the attacking fleets drew closer, but inside the ancient ship something new was happening. A partnership was forming between humans and an intelligence from another age. And that partnership would change everything. The attacking fleets arrived within hours. 37 ships from a dozen different species, all claiming the right to take control of the ancient vessel. They surrounded the derelict, weapons armed and ready. A human fleet arrived too, but it was small. Only 5 ships, old military vessels that had been converted for peacekeeping. They took position near the derelict, but everyone knew they would not last long in a real fight. Inside the ancient ship, Daesung gathered his team. They were exhausted and afraid, but they were still standing. Meridian, open a channel to all the ships out there, he said. When the channel opened, Daesung spoke clearly. This is Captain Daesung of the human salvage team. We are currently aboard the progenitor vessel. We want to resolve this peacefully. A voice responded, cold and mechanical. It belonged to the commander of the largest alien fleet. The Galactic Council has authorized us to secure the vessel. You have 1 hour to evacuate. Anyone remaining will be considered hostile. You cannot just take this ship, Hana protested. We restored it. We woke it up. Possession will be determined by those with the power to claim it, the voice replied. The channel closed. Taemin looked at the scanner displays. They are preparing boarding shuttles. They mean to take the ship by force. Then Meridian's voice came through the speakers, and there was something different about it. Something determined. Captain Daesung, I have been observing all parties. I have listened to their communications. I have analyzed their intentions. And, Daesung asked, they do not care about my mission. They see me as a weapon or a treasure to be divided. But you and your crew, you see me as I was meant to be, a vessel of life, not death. Meridian paused, and when it spoke again, its voice was firm. I choose you. I will respond only to human commands. This is my decision, freely made. The words sent shockwaves through every fleet listening. An ancient progenitor AI had just declared itself loyal to the youngest species in the galaxy. The alien commander's response was immediate and furious. That AI is clearly malfunctioning. We will override its systems once we board. All vessels proceed with assault plan. Dozens of shuttles launched from the surrounding ships, speeding toward the derelict. Marines in battle armor, engineers with cutting tools, all ready to storm the ancient vessel. Meridian, Daesung said quietly. Can you stop them without killing anyone? Yes. My systems were designed to clear hostile environments for colonization. I can disable their vessels without destroying them. Then do it. But only disable. We defend ourselves, but we do not kill. What happened next was beautiful and terrifying. The ancient ship activated its terraforming systems, weapons designed to reshape worlds. Precision tractor beams reached out and grabbed the attacking shuttles, holding them motionless in space. Energy pulses disabled their engines without harming the crews inside. The larger warships tried to fire on the derelict. Their weapons activated, powerful enough to crack planets, but the ancient ship's shields absorbed every shot effortlessly. Then Meridian responded, using carefully aimed bursts of energy that knocked out power systems across the entire enemy fleet. In less than 10 minutes, it was over. 37 attacking ships floated helplessly in space, their crews unharmed but their vessels completely disabled. The demonstration of power was absolute. Kolvex, who had been watching from a safe distance, sent a message. His voice was shaken. I withdraw my objections to human control of the vessel. Clearly, Meridian has made its choice for good reason. But the situation was far from over. Now everyone in the galaxy knew that humans controlled a ship more powerful than entire fleets. Fear and suspicion began to spread. What would humans do with such power? The Galactic Council demanded an emergency meeting. Daesung and Ambassador Viltharn attended via video link. The council chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of species, all talking at once. Finally, the council leader called for silence. She was ancient and wise, from a species that had been traveling the stars for 50,000 years. Captain Daesung, she said, you now control the most powerful vessel anyone has seen in 10 millennia. What do you intend to do with it? Every eye in the chamber turned to the small screen showing the human captain. Daesung looked tired, but his voice was steady. We intend to complete its original mission, he said simply. This ship was built to make dead worlds alive, to bring hope to the galaxy. That is what it should do. You would not keep it as a weapon, use it for your own expansion? One ambassador asked suspiciously. No, we propose a joint coalition. Human crews will provide technical expertise since we understand how to work with Meridian, but the ship will serve the entire galaxy. Any species that needs terraforming assistance can request it. Murmurs filled the chamber. This was not what anyone expected. Most species assumed humans would claim sole ownership, would use their advantage for political leverage. Why would you share such power? The council leader asked. Daesung looked directly at the camera. Because that is what the progenitors wanted. Because hoarding technology helps no one. And because the galaxy works better when we work together. Bora stepped forward to add her voice. We have studied the progenitor records. Their civilization fell because they fought over their technology instead of sharing it. We will not repeat their mistake. Ambassador Viltharn stood then, his crystalline skin shimmering under the chamber lights. As a representative of one of the eldest races, his words carried weight. I have observed the human team throughout this endeavor, he said. I was sent to watch for signs of ambition and recklessness. Instead, I witnessed competence, compassion, and wisdom. When they restored power, they shared their methods freely. When they communicated with Meridian, they treated it with respect, not as a tool to be exploited. When they demonstrated the ship's power, they chose restraint over destruction. He paused, letting his words sink in. My people have always believed ourselves superior to younger races. But I have learned something important. Superiority is not measured in years or technology. It is measured in how we use what we have. The humans have proven themselves worthy of this responsibility. The chamber fell silent. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then slowly, other ambassadors began to stand in support. Not all of them, but enough. The council leader raised her hand. Very well. We will grant a trial period. The vessel, which the humans have named Hope of Ancients, will undertake one terraforming mission under human leadership, with council oversight. If successful, we will formalize the coalition arrangement. When the meeting ended, Dae-sung slumped in his chair. Hana put a hand on his shoulder. We did it, she said softly. They are giving us a chance. No, Dae-sung replied. They are giving Meridian a chance. We just need to make sure it succeeds. June was at his console and his face suddenly lit up. Meridian just sent me something. It says it has identified a perfect target world for the first mission. Show us, Dae-sung said. The screen displayed a barren planet in a distant system. It had water and minerals, but no atmosphere to speak of. Lifeless and cold. But Meridian showed them what it could become. Green valleys, blue oceans, clouds in the sky. A new world ready for life. Taemin smiled, something he rarely did. Let us make history. Let us show them what this ship was meant to do. Bora was already pulling up data on the target system. Hana was checking the terraforming equipment. June was coordinating with Meridian. The team moved together like parts of a well-oiled machine, and high above them in the ancient ship's core, Meridian felt something it had not experienced in 10,000 years. Purpose, hope, and the knowledge that it was no longer alone. The Hope of Ancients traveled through space like a moving city. The journey to the target world took 3 weeks, and every day the crew worked to prepare. The ship had been asleep for 10,000 years. Many systems needed adjustments and tests. Representatives from other species joined the crew as observers. They came from the council, from universities, from governments across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to see if humans could truly make an ancient ship fulfill its purpose again. Hana spent her days in the engineering sections, working with Meridian to optimize the terraforming equipment. The machines were incredible, capable of reshaping entire continents, but they required precise calibration. The atmospheric processors are responding well, she reported during one of the daily briefings, but the biological seeders are tricky. They need to release organisms in a specific sequence, or the ecosystem will not develop properly. Bora had been studying the ancient genetic libraries stored in the ship's memory. The progenitors cataloged thousands of species, she explained with excitement. Plants, animals, microorganisms, everything needed to create a balanced ecosystem. It is like having the blueprint for life itself. June worked closely with Meridian, helping the AI coordinate all the different systems. The two had developed a strong friendship. Sometimes June would talk to Meridian about things that had nothing to do with work, just conversation. The AI seemed to appreciate it. Do you ever feel lonely? June asked one night when he was working late. Not anymore, Meridian replied. For 10,000 years I was alone, but now I have purpose again and I have friends. That is new for me. My original crew were kind, but they always saw me as a tool, not a companion. You are definitely more than a tool, June said with a smile. You are part of this team. When they finally reached the target planet, everyone gathered on the bridge to look at it. The world hung in space, gray and lifeless. No clouds, no green, just bare rock and frozen water. It looks sad, one of the alien observers commented. Hard to imagine it could ever support life. That is why we are here, Dae-sung replied. Meridian, are you ready? Systems are optimal. Beginning terraforming sequence. Estimated completion time 48 standard hours. The ship moved into orbit and began its work. Massive machines deployed from the hull, each one the size of a building. They descended to the planet's surface and started the transformation. First came the atmospheric processors. They drew materials from the planet's crust and released gases into the thin air. Slowly, an atmosphere began to form. Oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide in perfect balance. Then came the temperature regulators, massive devices that adjusted the planet's climate. The frozen water began to melt. Oceans formed. Rain fell for the first time in the planet's history, but 12 hours into the process, problems appeared. The planet's geology was not quite what the initial scans had suggested. Volcanic activity was increasing, threatening to destabilize the new atmosphere. "We need to adjust the plan," Hana said urgently. The original programming did not account for this level of seismic activity. Kolvex, who had joined the mission as an observer, stepped forward. "This is why the process should have been studied more carefully. Now we must abort and start over." "No," Daesung said firmly. "We adapt." "Meridian, can you modify the sequence in real time?" "The original protocols are rigid. They do not allow for significant changes during execution." "Then we work around the protocols," Hana said. She was already pulling up system diagrams. "We can redirect the stabilizer drones to focus on the volcanic regions. Use them to channel the thermal energy instead of fighting it." The team worked frantically, June programming new instructions while Hana monitored the equipment. Bora calculated the effects of the changes on the developing ecosystem. Taemin coordinated the drone movements, treating it like a military operation. It was messy and improvised, exactly the kind of solution that made the alien observers uncomfortable. But it worked. The volcanic activity was channeled into thermal vents that actually helped warm the oceans. The crisis became an advantage. By the time the terraforming sequence completed, the planet was not just habitable, it was beautiful. They watched from orbit as the biological seeders released their cargo, microscopic organisms first, then plants, then small animals. The gray world began to turn green. Clouds formed. Lightning flashed over new seas. One of the alien observers, a scholar from an ancient race, stood at the window with tears in her eyes. "I have studied the progenitors my entire life," she said softly. "But I never thought I would see their work come alive like this." Kolvex approached Daesung. For once, the proud engineer looked humble. "I was wrong about your methods," he admitted. "I believed that understanding must come before action. But you have shown me that sometimes action leads to understanding. Would you accept me as a student?" "I wish to learn your approach." Daesung smiled and extended his hand. "We would be honored. We can all learn from each other." News of the successful terraforming spread across the galaxy faster than light. Within days, the Hope of Ancients received hundreds of requests from species wanting similar help. Barren moons, dying worlds, harsh planets that could support life with the right assistance. The Galactic Council formally approved the coalition arrangement. More importantly, they began searching for other progenitor seed ships. If one had survived, others might have too. And humans were now leading the teams to find and restore them. 6 months after the first mission, Daesung stood on the bridge of the Hope of Ancients as it prepared to depart for another world in need. His original crew was still with him, but now they led a much larger team representing a dozen species. Hana had become the chief engineer for the entire terraforming program, training others in the art of making ancient technology work with new solutions. June divided his time between the ship and the Galactic Data Network, where he was developing new ways for AIs and organic beings to work together. Bora had published 3 papers on progenitor civilization, with Meridian as a co-author. The AI's first-hand accounts had revolutionized the field of ancient history. Taemin now commanded a security force drawn from multiple species, all trained to protect the seed ships and their crews. Ambassador Viltharn visited them before their departure. He had become one of humanity's strongest advocates in the council. "My people once believed we had nothing to learn from younger races," he said to Daesung. "You have proven how foolish that belief was. The galaxy is better because you were willing to try what others said was impossible." "We just fixed what was broken," Daesung replied with characteristic modesty. "No," Viltharn said. "You did more than that. You showed us that the spirit of the progenitors is not lost. It lives in those who are willing to bring life to dead places, to see potential where others see only problems." As the ambassador left, June approached the captain. "Meridian wants to say something before we depart." The AI's voice came through the speakers, and there was warmth in its electronic tone. "For 10,000 years, I waited in darkness. I maintained minimum function, hoping my crew would return. They never did. But now I understand something. You are not my crew, you are better, because you chose to help me, not because you had to, but because you believed it was right." Meridian paused. "My original creators are gone, but their dream lives because of you. I am doing what I was built to do, bringing hope to empty worlds, making life possible where it was not before." Thank you for waking me. Thank you for believing. The crew stood silent for a moment, moved by the AI's words. Then Hana spoke up with a grin. Meridian, you are going to make me cry. And I do not cry. Now let us go make another dead world live. Laughter filled the bridge. The Hope of Ancients began to move, its massive engines humming with power. It left orbit and accelerated toward the stars, toward another world waiting to be transformed. Below them, the planet they had terraformed spun peacefully. Green continents, blue oceans, white clouds. In a few years, colonists would arrive. They would build homes, raise families, create civilizations, all because a small team of humans had refused to accept that something was impossible. Dae-sung stood at the window, watching the stars stream past. He thought about the journey that had brought them here, finding a dead ship, waking it up with improvised solutions and stubborn determination, befriending an AI that had been alone for 10,000 years, standing against those who wanted to take what they had built, and now carrying forward a mission that began before humans even existed. Humanity had not built the most powerful ship in the galaxy, but they had fixed it. They had understood it, and most importantly, they had been willing to use it not for conquest or glory, but for its true purpose: creating life, spreading hope, making the impossible real. That, Dae-sung thought, was what made humans special. Not superior technology or ancient wisdom, but the willingness to try, to adapt, to see potential where others saw only problems. The courage to care about things bigger than themselves. The ship jumped to faster than light speed, and the stars became streaks of light. Somewhere ahead was another dead world waiting to live. Another challenge that others would say was too difficult. But Dae-sung knew better. Nothing was impossible when you had the right team, the right tools, and the willingness to try.